Hello, Americans and other friends and subscribers around the world. Back again. We did the bear story on that last video, and so needless to say, after that, and how many people were up there, you know, it wasn't really the bears that chased us out of the hills, it was the humans. And so we got an old mountain man buddy of mine, goes by Coyote, we call him Yodi, and he'd been trying to get us to go down to the high desert, you know, on just north of the Waihees and stuff, because you could get on the north side of the Snake River. You can hunt, you know, if you get out in the Waihees, it's only 4 could hunt only and all this. So anyway, so we ended up going down there with Yodi, and instead of us telling the story, Cara actually got she did this story when she was in school, and they actually wanted her to join the book club or whatever. The teacher wanted her to join the book club. So I'm just going to read this. So this is in Miss Cara's words. So I guess you can just sit there and look pretty and stare at me.
Perfect.
All right, so here we go. It was a warm, sunny, late October day. I had my camo pants on and my long sleeves pulled up to my elbows. I had my camo hat on with a ponytail pulled through the back. Well, I was going to say, just like today. That's how she dresses every day. My black lace boots tied up tight. My shirt was tucked into my pants so that my Green River straight blade could hang freely down my side in its homemade leather sheath I made. My Remington 12-gauge pump lay across my arms loaded with slugs, a like bullet instead of BBs required by law when down by the river. Sweat was trickling down my forehead because we've been hunting all day and haven't seen even a fresh track. When we finally got back to the truck and decided to do a little target practicing before we left. When we were done, we emptied our gun and loaded up. A ways down the road, we seen some quail scurry into a huge sagebrush, so my uncle and I decided to go find them. We got out of the truck and filled our shotguns with bird loads. That's something I guess I should put out, that we use down there. You do have to use slugs in a 12-gauge, you know, short-range weapon. So that's what we were doing. All the slugs we left in the truck. We trucked off into the brush. My dad, brother, and Yodi decided to go check out the river. My uncle and I were spread out looking for quail. I heard a twig snap. I paused and looked around, and I took another step and heard a commotion and flipped me and my gun around. As I did this, about a dozen deer, bucks and all, jumped up and trotted off into some thicker sagebrush. I ran to my uncle to see if he had any slugs, but as I was running to him, he was running to me to see if I had any, because he had no slugs either. Mad, we stomped back to the truck and told the others what had happened. We all got back into the truck and drove back to the spot. When we got there, we laid out all of our slugs and only had five slugs left due to target practicing we had done earlier. We decided that since my bro and I haven't shot a deer before, that we each get 2 slugs and my uncle could have 1. My dad went with my little bro to help him out. Yodi stayed with the truck and watched for the deer with binoculars. The 4 of us took our places. My brother and dad took the left, my uncle in the middle, and me on the right. When we got about halfway through the section of sagebrush, I heard a shot fired. I popped my head up above the brush to see who had fired. I saw that it was my brother. He seemed to have nipped his buck due to the gun being too big for him, man. He's doing this, man. It was actually my gun. It was crazy. He was, what, 10?
Yeah.
And they then took off after the deer to see if my brother could get another shot at it. My uncle then fired way too soon and missed. He came running my way and asked for one of my slugs since I had 2. Frustrated, I gave him one. This man, by the way, is a man you only hunt with 1 time. Very true. Then, one too many. Then I saw another buck that had hit himself in the brush. I sneaked closer for a clean shot as my frustrating uncle fired at it, totally missing and scaring him off. I glared ferociously at him. As I did so, I heard the brush behind me cracking. I whizzed around. While doing so, my gun came up to my shoulder as my cheek came up to the gun and my right eye lined up with the sights ready to take aim. All this I did in one motion. As I did this, I seen my chance. Then the buck fever set in. I should have yelled, "Hey!" or "Yep!" making the deer turn broadside, giving me a broad shot, but I didn't. The buck fever was overwhelming. It was about 65 or 75 yards away. I pulled the trigger. The buck fever made it seem like it was in slow motion. As I pulled the trigger back, I looked forwards, watching the deer in slow motion run away from me. In that short moment, I believe I watched the slug hit him in the right in the butt, knocking the deer to the ground. Glancing over my shoulder, giving my uncle a grin, I trotted off to slit the throat of my first deer. As I walked up to him, he got up. Due to me blowing his butt off, he couldn't run as fast, but he could still run. I paused. Carefully, I leaned my gun against the sagebrush because it was no use with no slug. I reached to my side with my right hand and pulled my Green River straight blade knife out of its sheath. As I did so, I watched my first deer make its getaway. The buck fever set in. While all this was in motion, my uncle was walking up to my side. I took a step and went into a run. I saw my buttless deer's butt getting closer and closer. As soon as it seemed close enough and my right leg was forward, I heard my uncle yell, "Don't run with your knife!" As he yelled, I leaped into the air, and as I came down, I wrapped my left arm around the deer's neck. When my body weight hit the deer with the force, he stumbled for a moment and then caught himself as I held on, not going to let my first deer get away. My right foot was dragging on the ground, and my left leg was wrapped around my deer. I could feel the blow of my right leg each time the deer's right back leg came forward. Due to the buck fever, I went numb within milliseconds. I lifted up my right hand, which held my knife, placing the beginning of the knife's blade on the deer's throat and pulled it across with all my might. The deer and I went crashing to the ground. I stood up, heart pounding, loosened the grip around my knife in my right hand and brushed off the dirt with the other hand. My uncle was walking up to me laughing. He said, "That was one of the craziest, funny things I have ever seen." I smiled as I proudly walked off to go retrieve my gun. After we got my deer clean, we each took a back leg and drug it back to the truck. My dad and brother were walking up just as we did and said they couldn't find my brother's deer. I told my dad I'm the one who shot the deer. Congratulating me, he said that he had seen the whole thing. I smiled and we all got back into the truck and headed home to show Mom. That was an awesome, that is one redneck woman for you right there.
Yes, it is.
Y'all have a wonderful day.